As the evening sky slowly faded into soft shades of blue and silver, a narrow stone road stretched quietly through rolling hills toward a place that had almost disappeared from memory. It was a village so forgotten that many modern maps no longer marked its name. Travelers occasionally passed nearby, but few ever noticed the hidden path that disappeared beneath ancient oak trees whose branches had watched over the land for centuries. Those who did discover the village rarely stayed for long. They often spoke of an unusual silence, not an empty silence, but one that seemed to carry the echoes of countless ordinary days long ago. There were no voices drifting from open windows, no footsteps crossed the weathered streets, no smoke curled gently from the stone chimneys. Even the birds seemed to sing more softly here, as though they understood they had entered a place where time itself had chosen to rest. Long before the village was forgotten, it had been a peaceful home to farmers, blacksmiths, weavers, and craftsmen. Every sunrise brought the sound of wooden carts rolling over cobblestones. Families greeted one another with warm smiles, while children chased each other through narrow lanes lined with gardens full of herbs and colorful flowers. In the evenings, lanterns glowed in every window, and neighbors gathered to share simple meals, stories, and laughter before the stars slowly appeared overhead. Life here was never grand or wealthy, but it was steady, familiar, and deeply connected to the changing seasons. The villagers knew every path through the nearby forest, every field that welcomed the spring rains, and every stone that bordered the quiet river flowing just beyond the hills. Generations lived and grew together, passing down traditions that seemed destined to continue forever. Then, one day, something changed. No great battle was fought, no fire consumed the cottages, no earthquake shattered the streets. Instead, the village slowly slipped into silence, leaving behind homes that still stood, belongings that remained untouched, and questions that no one could fully answer. Centuries passed, yet the mystery endured. Tonight, we begin a gentle walk through this forgotten place, not searching for ghosts or frightening legends, but for the quiet traces of everyday lives that time almost erased. As we take our first careful steps along the empty stone road, the village seems ready to share its story, one peaceful memory at a time. The first cottage stood just beyond a weathered wooden gate that leaned quietly on its rusted hinges. Time had softened every corner of the small home. Moss covered the old stone walls, while thick ivy climbed slowly around the windows, creating a gentle curtain of green. The roof remained surprisingly strong, though a few loose tiles had slipped from their places long ago. Nothing here looked abandoned in a hurried way. Instead, it felt as though the house had simply fallen asleep. Pushing the wooden door open, we step carefully inside. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of old timber and dry earth. Tiny particles of dust drift through narrow beams of evening light that slip between the shutters. Each movement is slow and peaceful, as though the cottage is quietly welcoming us after centuries of silence. In the center of the room stands a sturdy oak table, surrounded by 4 simple chairs. Their surfaces are worn smooth by years of daily use. One chair sits slightly farther from the table than the others, almost as if someone had stood up only moments before. Nearby, a woven basket rests on the floor, still holding a few dried stalks of grain that have somehow survived the passing centuries. Against the far wall is a small stone fireplace. Its ashes remain untouched, preserved beneath a thin layer of dust. Beside it waits a black iron kettle, resting exactly where its owner last placed it. Wooden shelves still hold handmade bowls, clay cups,
and carefully folded linen cloths. Every object speaks of ordinary routines, quiet mornings, shared meals, and peaceful evenings spent beside the fire. There are no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no scattered belongings. Even the windows remain closed against the weather. The entire cottage feels frozen in a single quiet moment, as though time paused before the next sunrise could begin. Stepping outside once more, we find wildflowers gently growing where neat gardens once flourished. A narrow stone path continues between rows of silent homes, each waiting patiently beneath the fading light. With every step, the mystery grows a little deeper. If the villagers planned to return, what could have kept them away for so many centuries?
Leaving the quiet cottage behind, we continue along the narrow stone path that winds gently through the heart of the village. The road is uneven now, shaped by centuries of rain, wind, and growing roots. Small patches of grass rise between the old cobblestones, while wildflowers bloom freely where countless footsteps once passed each day. The silence remains unbroken, yet it feels welcoming rather than lonely, inviting us to slow our pace and notice the smallest details. Ahead, beneath the wide branches of an ancient oak tree, stands the village well. It is built from smooth gray stone, carefully placed by hands that disappeared long ago. The rounded edge has been polished over generations by people lowering buckets into its cool water. Looking inside, the water is remarkably clear. It reflects the evening sky with such perfect stillness that it almost seems untouched by time itself. Beside the well rests an old wooden bucket lying gently on its side. Its rope has long since faded, but the bucket remains where someone last left it. Nearby, half hidden beneath soft grass, is a small carved wooden horse. It is no larger than a child's hand, its wheels worn smooth from years of play. Holding such a simple toy in our imagination makes the village feel unexpectedly alive. Somewhere in these quiet streets, children once laughed, ran through the market square, and filled the air with joyful voices. Just beyond the well lies a small open square where villagers once gathered every week. Farmers displayed fresh vegetables, warm bread, herbs, woven baskets, and simple handmade tools. Friends paused to exchange stories, neighbors greeted one another with familiar smiles, and travelers rested before continuing their journey. It was the peaceful rhythm of ordinary life, repeated season after season. Now, only the gentle wind moves through the empty square. Birds perch on forgotten rooftops, and vines slowly embrace the old stone walls. Every corner seems carefully preserved, not by people, but by time itself. As daylight begins to fade, one quiet question stays with us. How could an entire village vanish while leaving behind a life that still feels as though it ended only yesterday? As the last light of day settles gently over the village, we continue toward a small stone church that stands at the edge of the square. Its modest bell tower rises above the rooftops, untouched by the noise of the modern world. The bell itself has remained silent for centuries, yet it still hangs exactly where it always has, waiting for a hand that will never pull its rope again. The heavy wooden door opens with surprising ease. Inside, the air feels cool and peaceful. Long rows of simple wooden benches face a small stone altar where melted candle wax still rests upon old brass holders. Colored light filters softly through narrow stained glass windows, painting gentle patterns across the worn stone floor. The quiet is so complete that even the faint sound of our footsteps seems to disappear before reaching the walls. Near the front of the church rests a large handwritten book, its leather cover faded by age.
Most of its pages have grown fragile, but a few names can still be read. Families who once celebrated weddings, welcomed newborn children, and gathered for quiet Sunday mornings are remembered only through careful lines of fading ink. Each name belonged to someone who lived an ordinary life, filled with hopes, routines, friendships, and dreams that now exist only in memory. Outside, the evening breeze carries the scent of pine trees from the surrounding hills. The church bell remains still against the darkening sky, watching over empty streets that have forgotten the sound of human voices. Yet standing here, surrounded by so many gentle reminders of the past, it becomes impossible not to wonder. What happened after the final service ended? Why did no one ever return to ring the bell again?